Okay, hello folks, Richard Brennan. I'm the president of the gallery, press gallery, and I'm going to introduce a number of people here this morning. First of all, to my right is Sheila MacDonald, Canadian Federation of Humane Societies. Kim Elmsley, International Fund for Animal Welfare. Diane Frank, Canadian Veterinary Medical Association. Hugh Coghill is the Chief Inspector for the Ontario SPCA. And Liberal MP Mark Holland. And folks, so who's going to make the opening address? Okay, Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and it's good to be here today with those who are on the front lines of dealing with animal cruelty in Canada. And I'm going to take an opportunity to allow each to speak in just a moment, but I do have a couple of opening remarks. As I've had the opportunity to go and to talk to those individuals who are dealing with animal cruelty cases and the incredibly weak laws that we have in Canada, you can't help but be moved. Moved by the terrible stories of abuse and neglect that are happening every day and going unpunished. When I talk to SPCA officers across this country, people like you to my left, who see these abuses and are unable to prosecute them because Canada has laws that fall behind even nations like the Philippines, because we have laws that haven't been updated essentially since 1892, are Victorian, and are badly in need of reform. The House of Commons has in fact passed twice animal cruelty legislation that was the product of a great deal of compromise. In fact, now before the House of Commons is essentially the same bill that was in the last House of Commons C-50, Bill 373. That is the product of a great deal of compromise and what brings us here today. To my right is Mackenzie. And I'll take an opportunity to introduce Mackenzie. Mackenzie is a very special guest because unfortunately a lot of the animals that are subject to animal cruelty are beaten or damaged so badly that they have to be euthanized. Mackenzie, in this case, though, was grossly neglected by her owners. When she was taken in by SPCA, she was malnourished, her skin was infected, and most of her hair had fallen out. And unfortunately, there are too many cases like this in Canada, and it's precisely why we're here today and why we collectively are demanding action. The reality is the government has the power today to introduce effective animal cruelty legislation. They don't have to wait for Bill 373. The House of Commons has already dealt with this issue in the past. The government can introduce it and seek unanimous support to move it immediately, and its time has certainly come. Canadians have now signed over 120,000 signatures to a petition in support of effective animal cruelty legislation. There are thousands of individuals who are active on Facebook and other online groups trying to push for effective legislation. In fact, if you've talked to former Justice Minister Irwin Cotler, you'll find out that the previous government received no more mail than on this issue. This was the issue that they received the most mail on of any issue before Parliament in the last Parliament. I would suspect if you talk to Rob Nicholson, the current Justice Minister, you would find that he would say the same thing. The government right now is talking about C2. They're talking about getting tough on crime. In fact, they're talking about causing a confidence vote in an election on crime unless the Senate agrees to pass new regulations with respect to crime. We would say that it's also tough for the government to get tough on crime against animals. That we know that crime against animals often leads to crimes, violent crimes against human beings. This is often a precursor of violent crimes that happen against humans. And if they're serious about getting tough on crime, they have to get serious about this issue. The reality is Canadians overwhelmingly support effective new legislation, and we cannot stand by and allow this issue to continue on any further as it has. I want to thank those that are assembled today for all they do on behalf of dealing with animal cruelty. On behalf of the cases and people that they deal with, it's time that we move forward and ensure effective legislation is adopted. Now, if I could, I'm going to turn it over to Sheila MacDonald. She's with the Canadian Federation of Humane Societies. Sheila.
Thank you. I'm here today speaking on behalf of Humane Societies and SPCAs across Canada, the very people who deal with animal victims of cruelty, abuse, and neglect. Every day they provide shelter and loving care for these innocent victims just like Mackenzie. They want to be able to appropriately punish the callous, uncaring perpetrators who inflict so much pain and suffering on these animals, but the law continues to fail them in its inadequacy. With the overwhelming and unwavering support from Canadians for better animal cruelty legislation, it really is staggering that our politicians have not been able to pass reasonable amendments like those proposed in C-373. A national survey conducted in November 2006 found that more than 85% of Canadians want wild or stray animals protected from cruelty. And more than 76% of Canadians support changing the law so that animal cruelty crimes are no longer considered property offences.